about the implications of all that has emerged in Tuam and the need to investigate it. But towards the end of his remarks in the Dáil yesterday, had an exchange, a rather heated exchange with Brid Collins, the people before Profit TD, who raised the issue of a private member's bill, which the Dáil will be considering today and tomorrow, which is to reduce the penalties for abortion that currently apply in the country to €1. And Brid Collins is on the line now. Brid Smith is on the line now. Brid Smith, good morning.
Good morning, Cathal.
Would you just...
I was going to call you Cathal Murphy.
That's okay. You're quite entitled to, and apologies, Brid Smith. What I want to be clear about is what exactly your proposed amendment to the current legislation on abortion would do and why.
Well, first of all, I think that most people in the country are not aware that the current legislation has within it a 14-year sentence for a woman and or her medical practitioners who may procure an abortion in this state. It's a very, very hefty penalty indeed that is written into the legislation, according to the government, by necessity because of the Eighth Amendment. Now, obviously, we're doing our best to have a referendum on the Eighth Amendment, and we've been given the delaying tactic, I would describe it as, of the Citizens' Assembly. But until the Citizens' Assembly comes back and there's a special Dáil committee set up and there's a decision about when and if and what type of referendum we have, there still is the chill and fear factor of a 14-year sentence hanging over women, and in particular young women who increasingly access the abortion pill over the internet as a means of dealing with a crisis pregnancy. And just up the road from us, I don't particularly recognise the border in this instance because the same laws apply in Northern Ireland, only the sentence in Northern Ireland is a life sentence. And just up the road, as I say, 3 women so far have been before the courts last year because they procured the abortion pill.
Now, essentially what your bill would do if it were passed, and that's extremely unlikely, but if it were passed, it would leave the law in its current form in place but empty it of any effective sanction by reducing the penalty to €1.
That's correct, because we did try on 2 occasions to put in a bill that would completely decriminalise women, completely decriminalise abortion, but the legal opinion from the Parliament, not some kind of legal opinion I accessed outside of Parliament, but parliamentarian lawyers told us you cannot do this because it would be unconstitutional and flies in the face of the Eighth Amendment.
Now, what do you make of the Taoiseach's response, which was... he didn't say who this point was made to him, but he said the point had been made to him very powerfully and graphically by a number of people unnamed. That's this: if your legislation was passed or your amendment passed, somebody who kicked their pregnant partner and killed a baby would be guilty of a fine of just €1. Did you really want that?
I think the Taoiseach stumbled and fumbled his way through a response to me. I know he was because I'm not trying to decriminalise grievous bodily harm or serious assault on a human being, and those laws are still there. And if you kick somebody in the stomach, whether or not they're pregnant, of course you're guilty of assault or grievous bodily harm, whichever charge would apply. And, to suggest that, it diminishing the seriousness of the 14-year sentence by making that suggestion was a rather silly comment, and I do believe he fumbled and stumbled his way through the response to me.
Just one other thing I want to ask about, because you raised it as well in your contribution yesterday, calling for protests at Bon Secours hospitals over what has emerged about some of the homes run by the Bon Secours order. Now, is it fair to do that? The protest, I think, is on...
It's on Friday at 6 o'clock in all of the towns that have...
Is it fair to do that to people who weren't involved in any of this?
Well, the Bon Secours order, it may not... Obviously, there's, as far as we know, 2 nuns still alive who were involved in it, and they're both very elderly, and I'm not looking to attack them. But the Bon Secours order has a legacy, and I maintain built their very lucrative private health empire on the bones of these dead babies, because... they did, in fact, export or traffic a lot of them to America for a lot of money at the time. And these places were run for profit. So they're now the biggest private health provider in the country. They just opened a new hospital disgracefully by the Minister for Finance in the old Barrington site in Limerick the other day. And my call is not, put them in jail and lock them up and throw away the key, although I'm sure some of the victims and their families feel that way. What I'm actually saying is that they should reconsider themselves their position in this country and disband the order and get rid of that legacy. So the protest will be silent, dignified. We'll be bearing white ribbons as a symbol of the dead children. It'll take place on Friday at 6 o'clock for a very brief period of time, but it'll simultaneously happen in all the towns, Limerick, Cork, Tralee, Galway and Cavan, and Dublin, of course, and Glasnevin. So I think it's important to make a statement, that the Irish people have an opportunity to make a statement and to call on these orders. Go away. Don't exist anymore because of the legacy that you have. And that's up to them to decide. I'm not calling for legislation to get rid of them. I'm calling for them to use their conscience and to disband.
Apologies for getting your name wrong. Brid Smith, thank you very much for talking to us.